Hi, everyone. Welcome to Digital Experience Teams Retro from January 31st to February 10th. We're going to go over what went well and what we can improve on. And just to start out, it was our first iteration using boards and tracking kind of our issues through these boards. And I just wanted to start off a conversation of, I guess, what went well and what didn't go well with the boards themselves. Is there anything we want to change? Do we like the labeling? Do we want to add more columns, remove more columns? To try and make it more efficient and easier for us going forward. If not, we can always add them under the two subcategories and we can just go in order. So maybe that's a better way. Okay, so yeah, add anything about the boards and I'll just go ahead and say what went well. So the first one is actually on me. And I just wanted to say I did enjoy using the boards. I thought it went really well. I like that we're using GitLab, the product itself, in our day-to-day. That's all I really wanted to say. Jess, I don't know if you want to vocalize that, but.
Yeah, I feel like we can all agree the one thing that was like a little messy was we didn't know who was going next. So I just threw a website in here, random.org/list. You throw in, everybody's name and it'll randomize the list, and we can just do that each time. So it's not the same person going first every time or last every time.
I was just gonna say, I think it's great. One fewer Google Doc to juggle. Obviously we're working out of one right now in this agenda, but Google Docs are good for agendas, right? And like less good for work management. So I liked that there was one fewer link to track with everything. I still, I don't know. With anything, you forget to move the thing, move the label, like go do it's it's one other thing to do outside of like doing the work, which can be frustrating when you're like in a rush. But yeah, I think this is the right direction. And I honestly don't have any pain points around more or fewer labels. But I would be amenable to like one or two more of a label or column, but probably not more than that.
Maybe a label to indicate when the issue is being reviewed.
Yeah, I'm curious if that would be a column or a label. I'm not sure. Yeah, like you said, I don't want to pollute it, but it also would be really nice looking at a board to see like maybe when we do the definition of done, maybe review is part of that. Or no, it's not. Okay, definitely not. Lauren's giving me a
no, because it could get reviewed and tossed back like 10 times.
That's true. So. That's true. We can make some magic formula. I don't know. It just feels weird when you're looking at a board and everything's in doing, because that could be like I just started it, or that could be it's in review. I don't know. We can figure out a solution to that. I think Tina, you have the next one.
Yeah, this is in regards to a Slack thread from, I don't know, last week or something like that, where designers were wondering what to do with issues. If when a design's done, do we create new issues for engineering or not? There was like a 26 response Slack thread. And I believe that we ended on one issue for engineering, one issue for design. I did do that for one of my issues for this iteration, and it seems to look better on our boards. I just think that we should maybe state that this is what we're going to try for next iteration explicitly, and just wanted to see if that's going okay for you folks. Guess we can move on to things to improve on. Lauren.
Yeah, mine piggybacks off of that. You want your work to show, and you want us to get counted in our metrics. Make sure there's a freaking issue for it. I'm a little salty about that, but that's just the way we're going to do it. And that's great. So.
Yeah, I think this feels onerous sometimes. But I think that the value is like the metrics we get out of it. But I still feel like I don't know. I'm worried about the metrics when the processes are not consistent. Like how how many issues we create is something that feels like it varies widely by person, and so like percentages of issues open seems like we have a high degree of variance. And I agree with Michael that it'll normalize over time, and that's what, like, not to say that we shouldn't use it, just that like we should use those metrics to try and get us all to corral around like up like a standard. Like we should try and get close, like we should try and reduce the variance over time. I'm worried about whether or not we will, but we will try. And I think, if we open up an issue for every like discrete piece of work we're doing, that'll probably help or get closer.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that because I had two, I think you ran into this a bunch in the last iteration. I had 2 issues or MRs that were literally 1-line changes. And the biggest pain point I had was the issue template. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't fill it out. Like I
Let's
just
remove it.
Yeah, it's a
Kill
tricky because I can see it for larger issues or maybe even epics, but things that we're just doing a little change, like I don't need to put a DRI, I don't need to put, there's no design needed or anything else. Yeah, that's just my opinion. I just put a description like changed or fixed typo. I don't know.
Look at the one in the GitLab product code base. It's like they have one, but it's I think it's actually way shorter. And like a lot of stuff you can like delete really easily. I think streamline it. I think that like if there's a bunch of stuff to do, like I think we have in the past used these templates as like safeguards that a human reviewer should be the safeguard for. So like there's templates where it's like, if I changed like UX, did I like show a designer or whatever? And like a human should look at this and be like, hey, I see you wrote 100 lines of CSS. Like, did Tina see it? Right? Like have we shown this to someone else? And I think that's a human thing. And I think you can cut down on the boilerplate by like, we can just streamline. I think it's like, I think that maybe we should just copy what's in the GitLab product code base, because it's like, what does this do and why? Screenshots and screen recordings, if you want to, it's optional but encouraged. Steps to validate locally, which again is like optional but encouraged, and then like a link to their MR guidelines, right? And I think we could do something like that. That's basically the same deal, and it would be shorter. And like you can take what you want and leave what you don't. And like we just need to have human people do better at catching the stuff that we've tried to catch via Markdown that everyone just skims and deletes. Which is a fair thing to do. Like I think it's like a reasonable thing to skim like dozens of paragraphs of Markdown.
I just this morning found a couple like tiny regressions and created issues, and I deleted all of them except for the labels. Here's the thing. Here's the link to the Slack thread. And that was it.
Yeah, it feels bad when we're deleting it. So clearly, I don't know, the template doesn't meet the needs for what we're trying to do.
I have zero qualms when it's literally just a shell issue. So
Yeah.
It shows on our boards and we get a point for it.
Okay, so I think I'm next. I saw this iteration that a lot of merge requests rained. So Lauren, we're merging a lot of merge requests and some conflicts appear. So I saw that some conflicts are not being done correctly and some code is being lost. So I think that we need to take care more of the conflicts and check both code blocks and see what needs to be combined between the two code blocks, because sometimes we only do take this one that is from my merge request or take this other that is from head, but maybe we need to combine both codes. So I think this point is to take better caring of the conflicts, because we are losing some code in the merging. And right now we have like 3 merge requests per day. So it's a lot of code that maybe can be missed. Regarding that, another thing that I saw is that some conflicts are only indentation. So I think that maybe it's better to have indentation rules for everyone and not what the IDE has as in the settings. So maybe we can talk about that later to have indentation rules and linting and all that stuff. I know that Javi did some things in the linting, but maybe we can add indentation rules and some other things. And that goes to my next point, that is also check better the regressions, because Lauren found two regressions today that were linked to some changes that were made to generic components. And if we do changes to generic components, we need to be sure that we are not breaking anything, because there are some components that are being used in more than 10 pages. So I think it's also take better care of regression. And that would be it for me.
I think for the regression, like we can't do regression testing without having like an acceptance criteria, right? And you're super right. Like the answer to like catch a bunch of this is to like spin up Cypress and do visual regression like diffing on all the merge requests, and that's something we can absolutely do. But it will be like wasted effort until we have like a baseline that we don't want to regress backwards from, right? And we're going to get all this like new brand updates and like a bunch of this work that's coming like this quarter. So like I think we should do regression testing. We've said this for as long as I've been here and probably longer. We absolutely need to do visual regression testing, but I don't think we can do that until we are like at a point where we can say that we know what the right answer is, right? Like we need to know what all of the components must look like, or some meaningful percentage, like 80% of them must look like, before it's worth the time to invest in regression testing. But when we go to plan this and like when we're communicating outwards on these projects, like the regression testing needs to be a part of the plan. We also can't say like, oh, well, we'll do it when we're done. Like, I think that should be part of the definition of done. I like this is a thing that like, I don't think test-driven development works well for visual regression testing for something like this. Like, we don't want to write these tests first. We want to like iterate, get happy with it. And once like designers, stakeholders, everyone is like happy with how it looks, then we say, cool, like we grab Cypress, we take a snapshot of it, and we say, this is how it looks. And like every time it changes, if it changes, we like fuzz some difference on it. And if it goes beyond a threshold, we say, hey, we have a regression. But we can't do regressions without a standard first. So all that to say, super right, dude, like 100%. Let's do regression testing and let's make sure that it's part of the plan. And if it isn't part of the plan because we don't have time, we should communicate that if we don't make regression testing part of the plan, we will have regressions and we will spend time like infinitely battling regressions afterwards.
My comment piggybacks off that. Yeah, there's like 12 MR shipping at least a week. And when they're all touching global components extensively, like I'll spot check some pages from each content type. We have like over 60 pages. I can't check all of them. If most of them look good, cool. We're moving fast. There are going to be regressions, but we have a great team. We have the entire company. They'll let us know. And sometimes it's a really quick fix, like those two that John patched up this morning, super small, real quick. So it's not, I don't think it's like the death to our team if we have a couple regressions because we're moving so fast. And maybe we have like a thorough weekly regression, like the end of a sprint or the start of a sprint to make sure we're catching stuff. But as our site grows, it's going to get harder because it's going to get over a couple hundred pages really quick.
I just wanted to call out a point that I thought was really useful that I had seen with Netlify, the product itself, where it'll, when you're like generating like you're building out a static site generator, it'll tell you like what like a number of pages that have changed. So it's like if you're changing something like card.view, it'll tell you like, hey, like, you know, company and solutions and all of these child pages changed. Like we don't know where it's changed, but something in here changed. So I don't know if that would be helpful for us to build out. I feel like we're still like in, you know, that kind of very early land where that stuff might not be as beneficial, but it's something we could certainly look into as we're starting to get more stuff rolled out. And I just wanted to call that out because that's something that I always thought was super cool.
Yeah, I mean, those are the regret. Like we can do the same thing. I just like, I don't think we should until it's like, because if we set it up right now, everything will change every time you do a thing. Like it'll be noise that we'll ignore every single time. Like that's good. Like if we do visual regression testing too early, it's just going to get so noisy that we'll never pay attention to it. If we never do it, then we'll never have it. So like we absolutely, like, it needs to be part of the plan. But like I fear setting up regression tests that everyone learns to ignore, because they're like, every time I make an MR, the entire website changes, because like we're still in such an early phase that like that is an expected behavior, right?
Has been considered to have an staging environment with all of iteration changes, all the MRs deployed, and make the regression on that the staging environment before merge to production. I mean, it will be a bigger task, bigger effort, make a regression for everything. And we will need someone to do that anyway, but we will avoid to have that kind of issues in production. I mean, it's just an idea. I don't know. I just want to share that idea.
I think we can do that with the review apps, can't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to make a regression for one MR to do instead of doing regression for everything.
We're already gonna start a branch for our whole branding refresh and do like a big reveal branch, which will kind of be our staging. That is gonna be a change for our team already. I would hate to have another one on top of it.
I think it's a good, I like started to like, I feel like I'm like repeating myself too much. And like, I don't want it to be dismissive. It's like, yes, that is absolutely what we should do. Just like not now. Like, I don't think we're ready for it, because like, it's the same fundamental problem. Is like, we should do the regression tests against an environment that looks like production, and like we can have things that run on a cadence of like, we can have like daily regression tests where we don't even need to run, because the regression test can be expensive. We don't need to run it on every MR, but we can, you know, have a daily check, an hourly check, every 6 hours check. But like, to reiterate one more time, like I don't like, everything's changing. We're about to rebrand. We should not spend the time putting that together when we're about to cause regressions on every single visual element of the site, right? Like, because it's all going to change with the new brand. So like, we'll just fail the regression test every single day, and that will be an expected behavior. And I don't think we'll be adding value like until we get to a stable point where we say like the work is basically done. It should not regress from this point, but I would expect visual regressions every single day from now until the end of the quarter. And like, I think we just have to move forward with them, right? But like, again, I'm like, that is exactly the right idea. Like 100% staging environment, run the regression tests on them. Let's do it. I just think like now is not the time to do it.
Do we want to move on? We're already kind of 8 minutes over, so I don't want to keep everybody here. But Jess, did you want to go over that last point?
Yeah, so while y'all were talking about number one of the how we're going to deal with the MR issue, found this link to an issue that already exists, and there are a couple before that. There's one that's like 4 years old, one that's 5 years old, all asking for the same request of, can we add MRs to issue boards? And Tyler actually had commented on this one in particular like a year ago, and Becky was on board, but I don't think she's here anymore. But I was just curious, like, can we push forward to get this feature into GitLab so that we don't have to keep using workarounds? Tyler, you had a comment there. You want to go talk about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we gotta swim upstream against whatever process, like, the business has to decide that they want to do it, right? But I think like the thing that like I commented on this because I was hoping that by commenting on it, it would like be another like tick mark in the should we do it or not. So I think, anyone on this call or watching this video who like wants this thing, there's a link in our agenda to the specific feature request. I think just go and just like type a comment and like I think there's like six reactions on mine. I think it's more powerful to like type 3 sentences and be like, I want this too because XYZ. Like I linked it to our communications handbook, and I was like, in the handbook we say we're MR first, but like MRs are not like the easiest thing to work with to track work. So I think go write 3 sentences on it and see what like who knows if that'll be what it is, or maybe someone's working on it, right? Like, or getting ready to work on it. Who knows? Not me.
Cool. Well, I think that's everything for this retro. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week in our sprint planning, our iteration plan.